Daniel Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the ACC Championship matchup between the Clemson Tigers and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Both teams have had great seasons getting to this point. You got Clemson, who is 10-2 on the season, and considering this team had some very high expectations heading into the season, maybe it has been a bit of a disappointment of a season for Clemson, but this is still one of the top teams in the ACC, and they're still ranked in the top 10 of the college football playoff rankings. And a New Year's Six bowl bid is on the line as they take on North Carolina. This team is 9-3 on the season. This team was just a couple of weeks ago potentially the hottest team in the ACC, but since then they lost to Georgia Tech and then to NC State. And so both teams are coming off of losses heading into this matchup. So even though there's no college football playoff implications in this game, it should still make for a great matchup. And once again, the New Year's Six bowl bid is on the line. We'll be over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting with your team trends. Clemson lost to South Carolina 30-31 last week, and suddenly South Carolina is one of the hottest teams in the country. They beat Clemson and Tennessee in back-to-back weeks, and that was a disappointing loss there for the Tigers, no doubt. But they're still 10-2 on the season, and once again, I know for Clemson, this team has been such a big national contender in recent history. A 10-2 season in the past couple of years maybe have been very underwhelming for Clemson fans, but this is still a solid football team. I mean, if you're going 10-2, I mean, a lot of teams would only hope to go 10-2 in a season. So, and they're still undefeated in conference as well at 8-2. As for North Carolina, they lost to NC State 27-30. Once again, it's pretty shocking to see this team have taken two straight losses heading into this matchup. They also lost to Georgia Tech, game that you simply have to win there. But they lost that game at home by 4, and this team is now 9-3, 6-2 in conference. They were undefeated in conference all the way up and through middle November. So this is still a solid football team, and they're ranked 23 in the college football playoff rankings. And if you compare that with Clemson, Clemson is still in the top 10 at number 9 in the penultimate college football playoff rankings. Games on Saturday, December 3rd in Charlotte, North Carolina. Your kickoff is 8 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going Clemson by 7.5, over under 63.5. And the FBI is going with Clemson here 77.3%. So the Tigers are favored by just about a touchdown in this matchup. Series history, Clemson leads at 60-29. Clemson won the last matchup between these two teams, and they've also won 4 out of the past 5. Both teams did not face each other this season. So this is the one matchup of the season where we see Clemson face off against North Carolina. Stat comparison for this one, Clemson is 22nd in points per game, 27th in points allowed. So this may surprise you. I mean, Clemson last year offensively they just were not a good team on offense last season. That was the main reason why this team couldn't be a big contender, but they did improve over the course of the season. And so that's a big reason why this team had such high expectations heading into this season, because their offense and this team in general improved a ton over the course of the 2021 season. So heading into 2022, your offense looking better, your defense was fairly solid last season. The expectations were high, but this team has been just very inconsistent on both sides of the ball. I mean, defense wasn't much of an issue last season, but it has been at times this year. I mean, when they allowed 35 points to Notre Dame, couldn't keep the Tigers in that game, and offensively they also couldn't get anything going against Notre Dame, even though they did score a couple of touchdowns later on. And then against South Carolina, you led that game for a good chunk of it. And then South Carolina kind of snuck in, and they stole the win in the end. But once again, the inconsistency on this team has been the main issue. Plus, you got to consider you're in the ACC, which is definitely the weakest conference in the Power 5 this season. So, I mean, you should only be allowing. I mean, Georgia, for example, is only allowing 10 or 11 points a game, and they're in the SEC, which is filled with great defenses, but also great offenses. And so for Clemson, it's just been a bumpy season once again. And so we'll see if this team is able to improve for 2023. Obviously, there is some talent being lost, but we'll get into that more in the offseason. But, I mean, rushing defense has been a strength. They are only allowing an average of 100 rush yards a game. And then once again, the passing game has been the main issue offensively. DJ Uiagalelei has just been a bit inconsistent this season. That's how it was last year as well. And his stats aren't great, but they also aren't bad. So, I mean, he's had a decent season, but it's obviously nothing of a Heisman contender. North Carolina is 19th in points per game, so offensively this team has been very strong this season. Defensively, they've been much worse than Clemson, allowing an average of 30 points a game. They're 6th in passers a game. Obviously got Drake May, who's really had a great season. He's kind of surprised a lot of people. He's put up 3,800 yards, 35 touchdowns, 5 picks. definitely the better quarterback in this matchup, and Drake May has got a bright future, that's for sure. North Carolina in general does with him under center. Obviously, you had Sam Howell, who was the previous quarterback for North Carolina, and he really rose the expectations very high for North Carolina. Here we go. The Tar Heels got yet another outstanding quarterback, and that is Drake May. And so North Carolina is 70th in rush yards a game, and then for yards allowed, 112th in passing, 98th in rushing. So passing defense has been a big weakness for this team, and honestly, same with the rush defense. Honestly, defense in general has just been a problem for North Carolina at many points this season. Recent matchups: Clemson lost to South Carolina 30-31, beat Miami by 30, beat Louisville, lost to Notre Dame 14-35, also beat Syracuse when they were at their high 27-21. Syracuse, what a team. That team just fell off down the stretch. They started out the season, I think, like 6-0. They finished out the season 7-5. They lost 5 of their last 6, and so Clemson beat Syracuse when they were at their highest. They were ranked 14th in the country. And then for North Carolina, they lost 2 straight, NC State and Georgia Tech, beat Wake Forest by 2, beat Virginia by 3, a couple of close wins. Also beat Pitt, which was a solid win there, 42-24. Turns out Pitt finished out the season with 8 wins. Key points for this one: Clemson 10-2. Tigers have had a roller coaster of a season once again. Offense has improved. Defensively, they have been a bit inconsistent. Honestly, they've been inconsistent on both sides of the ball this season. That's how it was last year as well. And they remain very much in contention for the New Year's Six. I mean, the winner of this game goes to the Orange Bowl, so there is still plenty at stake here for whoever wins this game. And currently, I've got Alabama projected to be in the Orange Bowl, so we'll see if. And honestly, it could also be Tennessee, either Alabama or Tennessee. I've got Alabama currently projected for the Orange Bowl, and so the winner of this game, we could easily see a Clemson-Alabama game or even a North Carolina-Alabama game. That's very much within reason as well. For the Tar Heels, after starting 9-1, they've lost 2 straight, so I have lost a lot of confidence in the Tar Heels, even though I know this is still a solid team. They've got a chance to turn it around before bowl season. This would obviously be a huge win before you get to your bowl game, and offensively, they got depth and are very talented. Once again, this is a strong offense, and there are a lot of question marks around North Carolina this season, losing Sam Howell, and it seemed as if it was going to be a rebuilding season, and it has in a way. But, I mean, this team, they've been solid, and they won their division, and there's you're doing something right if you won your division in college football. So, definitely, it's still been, nonetheless, a great season for the Tar Heels. That said, let's get to the prediction here for Clemson and North Carolina coming up here in the ACC title game. And I'm going to go with the Tigers to win this one 34-31. And this is a game that I went back and forth on. Honestly, if North Carolina at least won against Georgia Tech, if they would have beaten them and they were a 10-2 team heading into this matchup, I honestly would have picked North Carolina. But this team, they've lost 2 straight heading into this matchup. They don't look quite as good as they did a couple of weeks ago. And so for North Carolina, I just don't know if this team, I think they keep it close. I think Drake May is a good enough quarterback, and this team is good enough to the point where they can win this. They can win this game, but in the end, I got Clemson winning this one 34-31. Just based on Clemson's talent, this is still a really talented team. So I'll say 55% towards Clemson, over under 63.5. Give me the over for this one, and North Carolina to cover that spread in the end. Even though the spread is definitely an iffy one for this one, I could also see North Carolina coming out completely flat, knowing that they've lost 2 straight heading into this matchup. They obviously put up a fight in both games, but they were both disappointing losses. So that is a possibility. So the spread is kind of an iffy one here, but I do want to go with Clemson to win this game and North Carolina to cover the spread. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.